Nobody's selling a book say, hey, grow your business by 1% this year.
Right.
That book's not going to sell.
It's true.
No one's hiring that 1% growth guy to go speak at a conference.
No one says go low and slow.
It's like, let's just call it clickbait, right?
Yeah.
So like,
True.
I can grow your business 100x in the next 2 years. I want to talk to that guy. I want to see what he's
what's
selling.
he doing? Oh, if you just do A and then you do A and that leads to B. And then if you do B, you're going to do C.
Yeah.
And it's super inexpensive. And all you need to do is like invest this amount of time per week and you're good.
Yeah. Instant business.
So I think that's...
Just add water.
Yeah. Welcome to the podcast dedicated to real estate, insurance, and everything in between. Join us as we take you along our own brokerage building journeys with additional wisdom from our network of business experts. Welcome to Bricks and Risk. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Bricks and Risk. I'm Tim Garrity.
And I'm Sean Mooney. Tim, today we're going to be talking about the art of scaling a business.
Ooh, I like
topic.
that.
Yeah.
It is a good topic.
So what we want to start with today is really the need of scaling a business versus the desire or the want to scale a business.
Oh, I love that.
And so we'll talk about different industries and, your take on maybe both. And, dive into it a little bit deeper on this topic. And
cool. All right. I'll start off. So let's talk about the need to scale versus the actual wanting to scale.
Because everybody wants to.
I mean, everyone wants to be big.
Everybody wants to be big, grow big.
Yeah,
be
growth.
Big.
Growth is a fantastic word in business. People love it.
Especially before you get into business, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I want to be, a $10 million business and I want to, and they don't account for any and all of the headaches and other things that come along with it. They just see the growth in the business. So,
well, I have my own opinion.
Yeah.
So let's start off with my opinion of how to scale and when to do it, why to do it. So the way I look at it personally is that, let me relate it to myself in real estate. So when I started in real estate, I was what is called a solo agent. So no team, no assistant, I'm doing everything on my own.
This was life before Copperhill.
Correct.
Yep.
So this is me doing all the marketing, all the paperwork, all the finance. Because again, you're self-employed. You have to do your own accounting, all the planning, all the management, all the organization. So you're doing everything on your own.
Showings? Did you do showings?
I did do those. I still do them today because I still practice.
Okay.
But talking about myself and like, how did I go from being a solo agent to partnering up with Andrew and Ryan, starting Copperhill, and then growing that into a team of 30? I look at it as like, it should be more the need, not the want. I mean, everyone wants to be big. Everyone wants to be successful in business, whether it's real estate, insurance, or something else. But I find that the people who start from a point of like, hey, maybe I'll raise some capital or I'll bring in some silent partners and we're just going to throw gasoline on the fire and I just want this thing to get real big, real quick. I find you will usually not do as well as you want to for a few different reasons. One, you haven't been in the trenches long enough. So if you're not there in the trenches with your soldiers fighting the war, how do you even know how to win? If you're just standing in the back on your horse and you're like, okay, just go ahead, you're pointing your finger, what's the strategy?
Does it matter if you've done it before? So like if you're out of industry.
Yep.
And you come into real estate and say, oh man, I got some capital behind me and I'm just going to hire a bunch of people and we're just going to take off, grow it to X over the next 5 years. Does it matter if you have a background in real estate? Like, so what's ahead of you?
Yeah, I think you do. And the reason I do is real estate is one of those business games where you really have to do it to get good at it. Just because there's so many different things that can go wrong. Yeah. It's so emotional. It's so personal. There's such like it's almost like as much as it's like a science, business is a science, there's an art to it as well, because you're dealing with human beings. and you're playing a big part in their lives. You know, whether it's their first home and they're moving from a rental or they're moving out of their parents' house or whatever it is, and they're like, I'm so excited, to someone who's bought 10 homes and they're an empty nester and they're downsizing. Either way, in my opinion, you should do it first
Yeah.
before doing anything. But I'm going to let you dive on that for insurance. What do you think from like an insurance perspective?
So I've seen it done both ways. Our way that we're doing it now is really building out our brokerage organically. It's more of a slow build over time.
Yeah.
It's not like that instant business that you just dump a lot of money into it. I didn't have the capital behind me. It was all of my initial money
Yeah.
that I used to get the doors open and to do the hiring and everything. So for us, it's hasn't been a quick 10x growth model at all.
Yeah.
But there are agencies out there that do it differently and been very successful in doing it.
Okay.
Now, that's usually not done in an organic manner. It's usually done by acquisition. So, meaning, you have your agency brokerage and you're acquiring, this one or that one. And then over, 5 years, you've maybe done it 3 or 4 times and you've kind of doubled, tripled, quadrupled, the size of your business. So I think in industry like insurance, if you're going to do it, I think the best way to do it is probably that acquisition model.
Okay.
And a lot of reasons behind it, because you're buying a book of business
And a team.
Yeah. So your book of business, and you can kind of see by the numbers when you're going through the acquisition process, like, okay, this is running at a 90% retention rate.
Okay.
So last 3 years, we've seen these people renew and renew and renew at this rate. So there's kind of that anticipation that you can see or expect that X amount of clients under this
Right.
book of business is going to renew.
It's more predictable.
Yep.
Because you got that track record, you got the people in place who've been working that book of business, and therefore acquiring them. It's more or less just like, hey, I'm your new leader, or I'm your new manager, however you want to look at it. And sometimes it has positives or negatives. I'm assuming most of the time it has positives, but that's a really good point. Here's something else I want to go over too, is that when people are looking to scale, a couple things that I feel like come into play that I hear on different podcasts, I see on shows, are books, or they go out to like, a convention, and they're using the influence of the book, or the emotional charge they got at the convention, as to say, it needs to be like this. Like, we need to do this. We need to do that. This is proven. And here's what I'll caution
In the
about.
context of growing, scaling, and all of
Yes.
that. Okay.
So here's my my reservation about that, let's call it. Because again, everyone's got a different way of growing a business. There's no right way to do it. There's someone just basically on another podcast was talking about, and that or that, saying that you can do it this way or you can do it that way, or you can do it with a little bit of both. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hybrids, all sorts of things. But I think, unfortunately, when you're just getting into the business, let's say it's real estate, and you start by reading books. Let's say I'm reading books on how to be a super successful real estate agent, or I'm reading books on how to invest in real estate, buy a duplex, house hacking, all this stuff, which is all fantastic. This is real world stuff. But what we're trying to say here, man.
The only thing I want to say is nobody's selling a book say, hey, grow your business by 1% this year.
Right.
That book's not going to sell.
True.
No one's hiring that 1% growth guy to go speak at a conference.
No one says go low and slow.
It's like, let's just call it clickbait, right? Yeah. So like,
true.
I can grow your business 100x in the next 2 years. I want to talk to that guy. I want to see what he's
what's
selling.
he doing? Oh, if you just do A, and then you do A, and that leads to B, and then if you do B, you're going to do C, and it's super inexpensive, and all you need to do is invest this amount of time per week, and you're good.
Yeah, instant business.
So I think that's...
Just add water.
Yeah. There's a Philly accent coming out because, water and water, that's something you're going to hear from
Roof?
time to time.
Rough? They say rough?
Creek or crick.
Crick shoes?
Um, but, going to like reading books that also goes to like, what's reality in business versus like, what are the odds of really 100xing, 10xing, like doing all these things that people just make it seem so easy. And then when you get out and do it, this is part of the reason why I think real estate has such a high failure rate. Everyone comes in, they watch things on TV, they read books, they see things on YouTube. They're like, I'm good with people. I like real estate. I watch HGTV.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this. I've been in sales. And that's great. I love that you're passionate about it, but it is brutal.
Well, the other thing too is nobody's posting on Instagram, hey, I lost this deal. I'm a real estate agent. These last 3 deals that I had, burn up, flamed out.
Right.
You're not posting them, right?
It's true.
HGTV, you're not going to post, hey, we did this flip on this house in Las Vegas and we lost $50,000.
Yeah.
It's not making, it's not making the editing floor.
True.
So all you're seeing, and probably to what you're saying in terms of why people gravitate towards real estate in general as a market to get involved in, it's because they see these things and they don't see
the
losses.
Stuff, the hard stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your take on all that? Like in terms of like, because you're more of a reader than I am. We've already talked about this. Sean's a better man. He reads more books. He's more intelligent. So let's talk about.
Keep going. A couple more.
That's all I got, actually. Why don't you talk about what's your opinion of that? Of like, the information that's out there, helpful, not helpful.
Yeah, listen, there's always going to be these personalities that are going to tie up all the oxygen in the room, right?
Yep.
I really there was actually a post on LinkedIn about this recently in insurance. And it was actually a guy who built a $20 million agency and he does some consulting, like super successful. And he said, beware of the insurance consultant unicorn, right? These guys that have never built their agencies.
Yeah.
And they're going out to consult, right?
Yeah.
And he basically said, there's no pixie dust out there.
Yeah. There's no shortcut.
He's like, you have to get your tasks, get your techniques, get your processes down.
Get your clients.
Get it all going and do it a little bit better and perfect it like 1% better and get better and better. And over time, you're going to have a great agency that you've built. It's just, his beef was, and it actually got like a lot of traction online.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Like, who do you think you are? And, it's great because half the people were saying, yeah, that's true. You can't do this. Beware of the consultant, that never did it before.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think you can always take away something from those types of people, right?
Yep.
There was one guy that we followed a little bit where it was like mortgage referrals and how to develop a program. And I kind of like to extract like the technique away from those people.
Yep.
And see how they spin it as their success and maybe boil it down to like something that's more that I can use in a smaller dose and get wins that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, at least for me, is that I find value in some of those people that 10Xers.
Hey everyone, this is Tim, your favorite Bricks and Risk co-host. But don't tell Sean. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll get right back to it in a moment. Our audience grows through word of mouth, so if you would please take a moment of your time and give us a review on the platform you're on, that would be fantastic. Please also help spread the BNR word by sharing your favorite episode with a friend. We greatly appreciate your time and trust. Now, back to the show. All right, well, here's another point. Here's the second point we wanted to talk about. So you've started a business from scratch, so have I. Which way do you do it? Do you bootstrap it with your own money? Do you borrow money from friends and family? Do you raise capital? Like, give me some thoughts on that.
So I think it's always best. It depends. I mean, depends, if you're young,
Yeah.
right, versus old. If you got less clock, if you're 55, it's like, well, I don't have that much time.
I mean,
right?
you and I so I started in real estate at 30,
Yeah.
but I didn't start Copper Hill until I was 35.
Yeah.
You started what? Moon Insurance Brokers, maybe like 33, 32.
Yeah.
So you got a couple years head start on me. And I'm correct in saying you bootstrapped your own company.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay. And so did I.
Yeah.
So I have no problem sharing this. So when we bootstrapped Copper Hill Real Estate, so it was myself, my brother Ryan Garrity, and my friend Andrew Jano started it. We took about 6 months, wrote out a business plan. Who are we? What's our mission? What's the brand like? Like, who are we trying to work with? Like, what are we trying to do with this thing? Like, we wrote it all out. I was fresh off my MBA. I had a lot of that going on through my head. So I was like in a good spot to like kind of lead the charge, but we all wrote it together. And in year one, we started real lean. We started in a co-working space. So this is how we started out. A fantastic office in Center City, Philadelphia. Amazing views, like floor to ceiling glass, gorgeous conference room, front desk. It was $800 a month. And when we wrote out our business plan, we said, look, year one, the amount of money we need for all the expenses we have for rent, for marketing, for insurance, for, attorneys, accountants, whatever you need was about $30K.
Yeah.
So we bootstrapped $10K each out of our savings accounts, threw it in a business account. We said, that's going to keep us alive for a year. Mm-hmm. And that was basically what we said. We're going to invest this because if I go close a deal with a buyer or a seller, it's eat what you kill. If I bring in a $10,000 commission check, that's going to my bank account.
Yeah.
Because we got the money there. But if we bring in another agent or if we meet a client together, like an investor, developer, we get 5 listings out of it. We bring that money in. That's a third, a third, a third. And most of the time we were taking that money, just putting it back into the company.
Yeah.
So tell me about your story. Like
similarly, starting in business, what I call on dental floss.
Yeah.
It was not a shoestring. At a terrible time when
and you had a droid too. So, obviously things are super cheap.
they were, very expensive at
I mean,
the
if you
time.
had an iPhone,
I think you
might have been panicking a little bit.
I think it was a Razor back then.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that was a nice droid.
Yeah.
Top of the line.
No, so, I guess there's an option to get a loan.
Yeah.
Right? Have some capital behind you.
Yeah, like a, SBA loan or a line of credit or something like that.
I kind of knew what I wanted to do for a long period of time. So I squirreled away money, year over year.
Yep.
So that when it did happen, I would have that, initial safety net.
All right. Well, here's a question, if you don't mind sharing it. How much money do you think you needed in year one? You were a team of one.
Yeah.
Just like we were a team of 3. We just happened to have 3 partners.
Yep.
Do you remember how much year one was? Take all the business aside.
So I remember my rent. It was literally, I don't know if you were ever at this office.
I don't know if I was, but it was probably awesome.
So I think I'm dead serious. I think I found this on Craigslist.
I'm not surprised.
I think I'm dead serious. So it was close to my house. I was looking for a place to go. Yeah. It was actually in like a little strip center.
Okay.
So like location on a main drag was like pretty
like
good.
Parking.
Yeah.
It's really easy to get to.
Yep. And you had to, I subletted like a little broom closet in the back.
Did it have a slop sink in it?
I don't think it didn't have a sink. It was like a 4x6. I mean, I think I had to like cut the end off of the desk so that I could walk around and like, but I had a computer and a phone and a sign on the outside.
That was it.
And it was Mooney Insurance.
Yep.
And I think it was about $450.
Okay. But you needed other things. You needed the software. You needed your own insurance.
Yeah.
You needed like some kind of accounting system or something like marketing.
Yep.
So how much would you say you think year one, the money you had squirreled away, how much would you say you probably needed year one?
year one, like all in,
Yeah.
yeah, probably like 20 grand,
Yeah. Okay. So
25 grand.
again, not all that dissimilar.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, we were eating like caviar and drinking champagne in Center City, and you're like, you know, you're dumping ketchup and mustard on white bread, and you're like, okay, lunch.
Can we get the heat
But,
on in here
but
in
you
this
know,
closet?
so that was the difference. But no, that's awesome, man. And I think so. Again, so bootstrapping versus equity.
It really all depends, right? Like, I don't think, again, I think hybrid, there's a model, there's a space for that.
Yeah.
I don't think there's one way where it's like, you have to do this. And if you do it this way, you're going to fail. Or if you do it this
Agreed.
way, it's
Yeah.
not going to work.
Yep, that's a really good point to make.
But again, too, is like, I also owned 100% of my business. And I think that some people just give that away sometimes when they're trying to raise capital. And they don't really understand
Yeah.
what they're giving up when they're raising capital.
It's true.
And I think that they're so anxious to grow, so anxious to
I need 100 grand. I need 250
Yeah.
to get this thing going. I need a real great office.
And I just wonder sometimes when those people that do that start in a manner where they're right day one giving up X, you know, does their 20-year-old business owner self kind of say, oh man, I really wish I just tried to do this on my own, found a different way to kind of make it happen. And maybe out of the gate, I wasn't, you know, lighting the world on fire, but as it builds over time, you know, you're still 100% owner.
Yeah, I think no, those are really awesome points. I also think one thing to consider too is, as I've mentioned this before in a previous podcast, is most people want instant gratification.
Yeah.
They want to feel good right away. And that's a totally legit, like honest way to look at business because it's all we see. Instagram, LinkedIn, you know, TV, you know, reality shows and like movies, like every documentaries. You watch all this stuff and you're just like, I can go do that. I can go have 5 employees. I can go have, you know, I can make my first $1 million in like 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's not to say you can't. Like people have done that.
Sure.
But the very, very small percentage, like the super, super low minority of people that have done that are the ones that, you know, either they just got lucky, which plays into it. They met the right person, right time, got the right break. Or they just had some capital from, let's say, like, you know, a loved one or a mentor or, you know, a bank opened up to them. So I think most of the time to do it that way, not only is your rate of failure higher because you're not humbling yourself to appreciate what it takes to build a business brick by brick. You know, you're starting in a broom closet. Even though we were downtown, we were in a broom closet too. I think it was like 10 by 12. You remember that space? It was tiny.
I remember the first one was on the left, and then you moved to the right.
Yeah. So we were in a co-working space. It's like we had
Still great office, still great space.
Oh, it was
I loved
phenomenal.
it. Yeah.
But like we had 3 of us in this thing. We put 2 desks together. My chair didn't even go under because I had 2 desk legs right there. So, and the reason I say that is because, you know, sometimes it's what it takes. And sometimes it's really what gets you to where you want to go because you're like, you know what? I'm just going to have to work as hard as I can and grow this thing, you know, through the relationships I have to get it to that point where, hey, maybe I am a millionaire now, or maybe I am doing $1 million in business or whatever it is. That seems to be a number that people talk about a lot still.
I think Luke had a post recently that said, it's not what you want. Like, you don't want this. It shouldn't be about what you want. It should be like, what are you willing to give up to get that?
True.
And it kind of changes your perspective. And it's like, anybody can want to have, you know, a $10 million brokerage or whatever it is. But like, what are you willing to give up?
Yeah, what are you willing to sacrifice?
And I think that a lot of times business owners that want that immediate gratification aren't willing to give up certain things.
Yeah.
And I think that can sometimes lead to maybe falling short of, you know, what you deem to be successful.
No, I think that's a really good point, which brings us to the last bullet is, you know, sometimes people say, you know, fast to rise, fast to fall. I think that's true. What's your opinion on that?
Depends. I think that if have a background in your industry and, you can get the capital and know how to kind of put the pieces together and you can just take off running, I think that you could totally be successful.
Yeah.
And do it the right way and bring in the right partners and grow the business, everything that you want. So I wouldn't say that there's a true or a false to that statement. There's
too many factors.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I mean, we hear a lot of sayings in business, a lot of quotes, things in life. It's not that every time someone says something like this, it's 100%.
I think
accurate.
I think it's more important to stick with like what's true to you.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want out of it? If you're not willing to give up anything, then maybe finding capital and finding investors and finding a team is right for you.
Yep.
And maybe you can make it work, finding the right people. Or maybe you're like, you know what? I mean, I know insurance people that are small agencies and I actually know a guy I ran into at a carrier network meeting, and he said, I don't write any new business.
Wow.
He goes, that's not our model.
Okay.
I said, what's your model? And he says, we just go over and aboard, like, to service our clients and to retain our clients.
Wow.
And that's all he's worried about.
So he's like, I want almost like 100%
Yes.
retention.
And that's kind of what they do.
And knows that they're going to
Unless
just
they
grow.
Die.
Wow. He's like, all right, we lost one.
All right, we'll let that one slide. Yeah, we need to backfill one.
Hey, remember Bill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a different model.
Yeah, it's an interesting model.
So they're at a point where they're happy with like the revenue, they're happy with the employee count, client count. They have enough to service all of their book of business, do an awesome job for them, and it works for them.
Wow.
Which is totally not. I mean, it's kind of foreign to me.
Yeah. One thing I'll add to that too is how I've always looked at it too, especially in real estate. It's going to be peaks and it's going to be valleys. So it's not just going to be the straight up, gradual or fast incline. And that's just the way it's going to be for as long as you do this.
Yeah.
Because what'll happen is, you'll bring in clients and you'll lose some clients.
Yep.
For most of the time, not of any fault of your own. This is just how it goes. Or people move, or people meet someone else and they're like, hey, I just felt like that was better. I made an emotional decision. That's what I did. Or in my business, which is similar to yours, mine's a little bit, it plays more of a role, is like we bring in agents, we lose agents. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
Why is that? I'm in a super competitive industry, which is real estate, and people are coming to eat my lunch every day of the week. Big players, small players, medium-sized players. Some are international, some are local here to Philly. But that's how they're growing. That's how I grow. I'm out, I'm networking, I'm meeting people, I'm sending out marketing, I'm doing videos. So like I'm bringing in people because of that, but people are going to leave too. So peaks and valleys. So just because someone says fast to rise, fast to fall doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, because it's all going to be dependent on a number of factors within your business.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to end on that one, folks. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bricks and Risk. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Bricks and Risk. Our goal is that you walk away with 1 or 2 valuable nuggets, and we greatly appreciate you sharing your time with us today. You can find all BNR episodes on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and anywhere else you get your podcast content. Until next time, keep learning and keep growing.